Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. It depends wherever you are, from which country you are hearing us. This is Dina Al-Salamen, the Cybersecurity Director and a PCP trainer. Today we are going to discuss one of the most important topics to make any organization resilient and to make any organization strong enough to cope any cybersecurity attack or any disruption event. We are going to talk about building a cybersecurity strategy aligned with business continuity standard ISO 22301. So let me tell you more about the agenda. We were going to cover introduction just to set the scene and discuss why we are going to talk about this important topic. Then we will talk about why align the cybersecurity with the business continuity. Then we will have a look on the standard itself, the ISO 22301 framework, and then we will discuss how we can do the integration and the alignment between the ISO business continuity standard 22301 and the information security management system, the ISO 27001. Then we will present two case studies, and finally we will provide you some tips to develop a roadmap for a successful implementation for your organization. Just to tell you more about myself, it's me, Dina Al-Salamen, Cybersecurity Director in Saudi Arabia and a PECP trainer. I have more than 17 years of experience in banking and other industries. So my area of expertise is mainly cybersecurity, risk management, data management and governance, also data privacy, business continuity, and IT. Keynote speaker in many regional, let's say, cybersecurity events in the Middle East, like Black Hat and also JISIC. In addition to that, a trainer with EC Council and an advisory board member with EC Council, and recognized as one of the top 100 cybersecurity leaders in the Middle East in 2024. So, building a cybersecurity strategy aligned with the business continuity. As we know that we are now depending on the digital services, whether you are working in banking sector or in health sector or energy sector. So basically, the organization now is trying to offer as many services, digital services, through their digital channels. As we rely more on technology, it means that there is a possibility for a cyber attacks and a possibility for disruption that could be caused by physical, let's say, or events, or it could be happen by cyber attack. So basically, the importance of the concept of operational resilience that has been, let's say, raised recently, starting from Europe, mainly Britain, to the whole world. They start focusing more on the concept of organizational resiliency, and the heart of the organizational resiliency is the operational resiliency. So basically, we will talk more about this concept because it's very important for our session today. So the alignment and the collaboration between multiple functions of the organization is very important to achieve the operation resilience. In addition to that, the threat landscape is now very broad, and we have many types of sophisticated attacks that could threaten an organization and could impact the digital services that offering by any organization. So we need to ensure that we have a very resilient services that we can offer to our clients. Resilient, not only that we can recover quickly from an attack, resilient from the beginning of designing and developing this service. On the recent research and studies, 60% of business experienced cyber incidents in the past years, in last year, 2024. In addition to that, the average of downtime from cyber incident is 21 days. And the mean cost of the cyber attack is 4.35 million per event. So as we know that in order to have a business and a successful business, an organization, and to establish from scratch, we usually spend a lot of time, money, effort, and we trying to build a good reputation and to gain the trust of the clients. But one cyber attack could ruin all what we have built. So as we have seen that the number of cyber attacks increased and the cost of the cyber attacks also increased year after year. So this will cause the organization not only an operational disruption, it will cause a reputational and it will cause the loss of trust that any business can try to build and develop across many years. Define the business continuity in a very simple statement. And what do we mean by cybersecurity? And what is the integration or the intersection between these two functions? So basically, the business continuity is the capability to maintain essential operations during and after disruption incidents. So it focuses more on the recovery activities, on rapid recovery after incident or disruption. Why the cybersecurity? It focuses more on the protection of digital assets, our systems, our servers, data centers, the component of the infrastructure and the digital assets that we have. So it focuses more on threat prevention and securing the information, the data that we have in our organization. Also, to detect and respond to breaches. So business continuity focus more on the operational resilience, minimizing the downtime, and ensure rapid recovery after disruption. While cybersecurity focus more on protection the digital assets, the systems, the servers, the data that we have, and focus more on threat prevention, secure the information, detect and respond to breaches. So what's the intersection between the two functions? So basically, safeguarding the critical processes from both physical and cyber threats is very important and essential to achieve the operational resilience. So having a holistic and integrated risk management approach has become an essential thing for all organizations. And having also integrated response planning, it means that we need to have one plan that could allow the organization to recover, first to detect, to respond, and to recover quickly from any disruption that could happen. And also having a concept of a comprehensive resilience strategy. So usually in organization, the business continuity and the cybersecurity, they are different teams and different departments. The alignment, the collaboration between these teams is important in order to achieve the operational resilience. Okay. In addition to that, we will talk more about the role of the risk management and many other roles relevant to the operational resilience. So why do we need to do this kind of alignment between the cybersecurity and the business continuity? We achieve three main objectives. The first one, to eliminate any exploitable gaps, then to prevent cascading failures, and to enable unified response. One by one. To eliminate exploitable gaps, if we work in a silo approach, if we let cybersecurity team work alone, and the business continuity team also work alone, so there should we will have certain, let's say, gaps, and we will not be able to identify certain vulnerabilities, okay, that could be available in our organization. So the collaboration, the integration, and the alignment between the two functions is essential to discover any gaps that could be available. Prevent failures. So basically, a cyber attack as an example. So basically, the cyber attack, when it start, usually the cybersecurity team implement many cybersecurity controls to prevent and to detect this kind of threats. Fine. But if the failure and the impact of the cybersecurity incident is huge and severe, then we need to activate the business continuity plan. Imagine if there is no alignment between the incident response plan that we have and the business continuity plan that we have. So how we can respond and how we can recover from the cyber attack quickly. So basically, when we have this alignment between the different plans that we have, then we can prevent any cascading failures that could be available. Also, enable unified response. When we have this kind of alignment, and when we also ensure that the crisis management team is involved and the top management also is involved in the decision making process, then also will ensure a speed and a very quick recovery from the incidents. So in general, organization with very integrated cybersecurity and business continuity strategy can recover 60% faster from incident comparing to other organizations. So basically, the collaboration, the integration, the alignment is the key. So I have mentioned the word operational resiliency or resilience many times. Let's have a closer look about this operational resilience framework. What does it mean? And which functions are involved in this framework? As you've seen in this slide, the operational resilience framework basically solves one of the most important problems that the organization have, which is working in silo approach. So basically, as I mentioned, the security team usually is different than the business continuity team. And also we might have another team working on the disaster recovery and maybe we have a risk management team. So basically, the operational resilience framework is the key to do some sort of alignment, some sort of integration between all supporting functions and important functions that that are mandatory for the incident handling or for recovering from any incident or any, let's say, disruption that could impact our business processes. So basically, under the operational resiliency framework, it's a structured approach that organizations use to identify their critical services and assess their vulnerabilities, identify the threats that could threaten the organization, and also it provides some kind of governance policies that bring together all related functions: risk management, business continuity, cybersecurity, third party, and crisis response under one umbrella. So we bring all these teams to discuss and to have some kind of alignment in their different, let's say, strategy, because eventually we are working on one organization, and these are supporting functions. So we usually, from a governance perspective, we usually say that any strategy of the organization must be aligned with the business strategy. So basically, the main thing is the business strategy, fine, and the other strategies that could be developed from different functions, whether business continuity, cybersecurity, IT, or even crisis management, should be aligned with the business strategy, because the main focus and the most important thing is protecting and ensure speed recovery from any incident, in order to ensure that the services, the products that we are providing for our clients are available, and we are able to respond and to recover from any disruption events quickly. So the framework itself can identify many things. First, what are the most critical services or business processes available in our organization? What are the risks, okay, and the disruption that could impact these business services or these products? In addition to that, what is our tolerance and the disruption. So we'll talk now later in the slide, sorry, about the RTO and the RPO and the importance of these two terms. In addition to that, the framework itself can answer and can provide the board, the top management, with a clear response and a clear strategy. How do we prepare, respond, and recover for disruptions or for any incidents? What you are seeing now is um, the incident timeline. So basically, the incident has many phases. It starts from anticipate, prepare, respond, recover, adapt. Each phase of the incident has certain activities, certain actions that should be done. For example, before the incident, we have two phases, the anticipate and the prepare. During these two phases, we need to do many things like understanding the organization context, the commitment from the top management, getting the required support in terms of resources, whether it's financial, human resources, or system or anything. Doing the required operations and ensure that the recovery activities become part of the business as usual activities or the normal and day-to-day processes. Performance evaluation just to ensure that we are doing a continual improvement. And once the incident happened, then we will be moved to another stage, which is respond. Now we have an incident and we need to ensure that we are responding to this incident very quickly. So we need to focus more on a plan activation, and many teams will work together and collaborate together, like the business continuity team, the crisis management team, emergency incident response, incident management team. So basically, multiple teams must work together in order to ensure that the organization is able to respond and recover from the incident. Once we recover completely from the incident, then we need to adapt. We need to back to our normal business operations. So the operational resilience itself is the ability of an organization to prepare for or respond to, recover from, and adapt to disruptive events. So it's the best thing that the organization can adopt, the best framework ensure the integration and to ensure the alignment between all supporting function or required function available in the organization. When we talk about cybersecurity strategy in general or the cybersecurity function, so the cybersecurity function itself is trying to do protection for the digital assets on many standards and frameworks. One of the well-known frameworks is the NIST cybersecurity framework. NIST cybersecurity framework developed recently by adding additional layer or additional, let's say, function called govern. So it becomes 6 functions instead of 5. Govern, identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. As you see here, so first we need to do some kind of govern. It means we need to understand the context of the organization, whether it's internal or external. We need to do some kind of risk management. Also, we need to ensure that the roles and responsibilities are distributed equally on all levels, whether it's board, top management, or junior, let's say, level, because the cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. Then identify. We need to understand and to know exactly the digital assets that we are trying to protect. So basically, we must have some thing called asset register that identify the asset type, the ownership of the asset, this asset, the IP address, and many details on each asset. And we need to do some kind of protect through applying many cybersecurity controls. It could be access control, it could be encryption, it could be also many things relevant to data security, to data protection, the data protection, and um, applying many controls. What could be very easy, like conducting a training, just to ensure that the employees understand their responsibility and they can identify any cyber incident or any cyber threat. And this is, we do all of these things during the protect function. When it comes to detect, we need to do two main things: the continuous monitoring and adverse event analysis. Then the respond and recover. And let's focus on the last three functions: detect, respond, recover. If we go to the previous slide, which is the incident timeline or the incident phases, you can see here: anticipate, prepare, respond, recover, and adapt. So we can see that there are some similarities between this framework, the cybersecurity framework, and the operational resilience framework. Actually, it's intersection between the two frameworks. So this intersection between the operational resilience and the cybersecurity framework requires a collaborative approach between multiple teams to ensure speed recovery, to ensure that the organization is strong, is resilient enough, and can respond quickly and recover from any incident. Okay, we use cybersecurity framework to develop the strategy. So the cybersecurity strategy doesn't contain only the cybersecurity controls. Basically, the strategy itself is mapped between the business strategy and the cybersecurity strategy. So we are deploying and implementing the security controls that could support the business goals and support the business objectives. Five, also on this strategy, we usually identify the assets through identifying the asset and identifying also the risks that could impact an organization based on the type of business, whether it's banking or energy, or it could be health industry. And we do some kind of um, planning, because the cybersecurity incident is something that happens every day. But how much is the organization resilient, and how much they are capable enough to respond to this incident, which is really important, because they can detect, they can respond, they can recover to the incident very, very quickly. So the strategy, the cybersecurity strategy itself, it has many components relevant to the detect, respond, and recover. And we usually develop many cybersecurity incident response plans, or sometimes we call it playbooks, for each type of cybersecurity incident. For example, for data breach, we have certain playbooks with certain activities that should be done in case we have data breach incident. Also, for example, for DDoS attack, for denial of service attack, we must have a playbook for that contains multiple activities that we should do in case of having a DDoS attack. So basically, this playbooks and the incident response plan in general, the main one, should be aligned, okay, and should be integrated with the plans that usually, let's say, developed by the business continuity team. So the integration, as you see, we can see multiple intersection between the cybersecurity function itself and operational resilience, which is the evolving, let's say, phase of the business continuity management. Okay. Now, let's talk about the ISO 22301. Let's have an overview. Then we will talk about each phase of the ISO standard, the business continuity, and the information security. So, the business continuity management system, which is ISO 22301, basically it's a standard that is applicable for any organization, regardless what is its type or its size or its complexity. So it should be applicable for all organizations, okay? And by implementing this standard, you can exactly identify the critical business functions and the recovery priorities. You also can understand the interdependencies between the business processes and the critical functions as well. Also, this standard is compatible with other ISO management standard, with the risk management, with the information security management standard. So the business continuity management standard is one of the standards that focus on the preparedness and response recovery and the continual improvement to ensure the organization can withstand and recover from disruptive incidents. The phases or the component of the ISO BCM management system framework. So basically, it has core components starting from context. So context planning, leadership, operation, performance evaluation, and improvement. We will talk in detail about each phase of these phases. The first one is establishing organizational context. So basically, based on one very simple statement, we cannot develop a plan for any organization without understanding the business processes and the business function that it has. And we cannot recover anything that we don't know. So basically, establishing the organization context allow the business continuity team to understand the business itself, to understand all, let's say, the environment that the business is part of, whether it's internal environment or external environment. And when we're talking about internal environment, it means understanding the business functions and the processes. If we are talking about banking, so you must understand the process of granting, for example, laws or opening a bank account. In addition to that, we also understand the digital infrastructure dependencies, because all business processes, they are relying on infrastructure, on digital infrastructure. Also, we must understand the governance system in the organization, the relationship between multiple layers, multiple levels in the organization. We must understand the culture by identifying and by analyzing the internal environment. When it comes to external environment, so we must um, understand the regulatory requirements, okay? And we must understand the threat landscape that could impact our business. And also, we must consider the technology evolution, because as you see, the emerging technologies are evolving rapidly, and the evolvement of the technology is something good, and it could be bad if we couldn't understand the technology very well and if we couldn't use it correctly. So basically, the external environment and the internal environment must be analyzed and must be understood by the business continuity team in order to have a comprehensive mapping of critical digital and physical dependencies that informs both the cybersecurity controls and the business continuity requirements. So, as you see, establishing the organizational context is the first phase and one of the core components for both the ISO 22301 which is the business continuity management system, the information security management system, which is 27,001. So this phase, this component is available in both standards. This step, which is leadership and governance commitment, fine. So basically, the leadership and the governance commitment is not only a policy, it's not only a document that we mentioned that the top management and the board, they are fully commitment to the two, let's say, discipline or the two systems, the business continuity and the information security. It needs more effort and more support. For example, the top management and the board must have the strategic direction. The senior management must establish resilience objective, and they must take the cyber resilience as one of their priorities. Fine, because having the cyber resiliency or the operational resiliency is essential for the business strategy, is essential for achieving the business goals and objectives. So basically, the senior management must take this matter as one of the priorities in the business strategy. In addition to that, integration of the cyber risk into the enterprise risk management. Eventually, the cyber risk is one of the risks that could impact the organization. If we are talking about a financial institution, so there are multiple types of risks. For example, the credit risk, liquidity risk, also the market risk, and the cyber risk is one of the risks that could impact an organization. So the integration between the cyber risks and the overall enterprise or the ARM, the enterprise risk management, is essential as and important, because eventually we will have one cyber risk profile, and we will have one, let's say, risk appetite and tolerance for the whole organization. So the cyber risk must be part of the enterprise risk management. Resource allocation for cyber and continuity programs. Developing a cybersecurity program and implementing this program, also having a business continuity program and implementing this program needs huge resources, financial resources, human resources, and collaboration effort. So the management must allocate enough resources for achieving and implementing these programs. Commitment. It's not enough to allocate the resources, but also the management and must also provide some kind of participation in multiple exercises or activities that usually done by cybersecurity and business continuity teams. For example, participation in the tabletop exercise or the crisis, let's say, exercise, or the cyber drill that usually conducted on annual basis. In addition to that, there must be some kind of a clear and regular communication just to ensure that all stakeholders, whether it's internal or external, they are part of the business continuity and the cybersecurity activities and the program itself. In addition to that, we must also giving some recognition and awards for the security and resilience achievements. Having a resilient organization, it requires huge efforts and time and collaboration. And believe me, based on my experience, it's something that is achievable, but it needs efforts and commitment from all stakeholders. So once we achieve this this concept or the operational resilience itself, so it should be some kind of recognition and rewarding for the people who is engaging or part of these programs, whether it's business continuity or cybersecurity. Transformation means that we need to have some kind of a huge shift in the mindset, because based on my experience, people usually assume that the cybersecurity is only the responsibility of cybersecurity team, and the business continuity is only the responsibility of business continuity team, which is totally wrong. Fine. The business continuity and the cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, and it needs collaboration from different teams. So basically, if we're talking about in business continuity manager um, is a coordinator. Okay, is someone who's trying to get all required information from different departments. So the business continuity manager is not an expert, for example, in marketing, is not an expert in IT, is not an expert in any, let's say, a function. So basically, the collaboration and the support is mandatory for developing a business continuity plan. In addition to that, promote the cybersecurity as business enabler. So basically, the main idea that usually uh, people say that the cybersecurity is a blocker for the business projects because they sometimes might request multiple controls or they need further testing. But believe me, the cybersecurity team, they just ask for these things to ensure that you have secure service, that the organization is providing resilient and secure service for its clients. So they are not a blocker, they are enabler. Based on my experience, I have seen many banks and institutions. They just wanted to provide a service, and they wanted just to um, be the first one who's launching certain services, but they couldn't um, stay in the market for more than 3 months. Why? Because they couldn't do the required cybersecurity testing. Fine. So the testing or implementing the cybersecurity controls, it might take some time. Fine. But believe me, it's much better than offering insecure service to your clients, and then while having a cyber attack, believe me, the service will not be able to be, let's say, available to your client, and you will have at that time reputational damage, and you will have a huge loss, financial loss, reputational damage, and the most important thing, you will lose your trust with your clients. So uh, try to work closely with the cybersecurity team, and they are enabler, they are not blocker. Even if the project, for example, take some time or there are some delays, but this is the best thing and the cyber approach for delivering a secure service for the clients. Establish accountability at all levels. So the cybersecurity program or the business continuity program usually it has multiple roles and responsibilities, and it should be distributed at all levels: the board, the management, the managers, the functional managers, okay, and the business continuity team as well. When we do this, so everyone is involved, everyone is engaged, everyone can feel that there is certain responsibilities and they have to do the required activities. And we must add, by the way, these roles and responsibilities to the job description just to ensure that all people they are aware. Because if we just send it by email or just send it, for example, or say it verbally, believe me, it's inefficient way, communication way. But when you add these responsibilities to, for example, to a policy, to the roles and responsibilities available in the job description, then you will ensure that the individuals will implement and will do these responsibilities. So in general, organizations where executives actively participate in continuity planning are 4 or 3.5x more likely to successfully mitigate cyber incident. Because when the message usually comes from top-down approach, no one can say no. Fine. So the best thing that the executive or top management and the board, they must be involved, and they must also show the commitment, not only in the policy, on a statement, on a piece of paper. They must show this commitment in every meeting, in each action, in each decision that they might make. Risk assessment and threat identification. This is the second component of the standard, the business continuity standard, the information security standard. The risk and the threat identification is to understand what we are trying to protect. We need to understand what kind of risks are that could threaten the organization or the business that we have. So we need to do some kind of asset identification, whether it's physical or digital, whether our assets are available on-prem or in the cloud. So we need to do some kind of asset identification. Then we need to do some threat assessment. The threat assessment, we need to see what type of risks or type of threats that could impact, that could threaten these assets. Okay, so not only from cyber perspective, but also from physical perspective. For example, the cyber threat, ransomware, DDoS attack, data breach, insider threats, and the physical events. It could be power outage or natural disaster on the operations. Then we do some kind of vulnerability mapping. This process, we call it the risk assessment. And the vulnerability mapping, that through this process, we usually identify the technical and the procedure weaknesses that could be across the business units. Okay. And in addition to conducting the risk assessment and the threat identification, we must do one thing which is very important, which is the BIA, the business impact analysis. By doing this exercise, which is simply identifying the business processes, then we do some kind of, for example, like prioritization based on the RTO and the RPO. For example, we take certain business processes and we see the RTO, which is indicator for the acceptable downtime, and the RPO is the acceptable data loss. So by identifying these two values, so we can know which business process is more important than other, for example, or another process. So how we can do this? We can do this by asking ourselves multiple questions. For example, let's have a business process account opening in a bank, fine? We must ask ourselves multiple questions, like what is the financial loss per hour or per day of the disruption, and what is the operational impact on service delivery, the reputational damage assessment, the regulatory compliance impact. We can answer these questions whether in figures, or we can answer these questions in a qualitative approach, high, low, medium, like this. So by doing this assessment or the business impact analysis, so we can prioritize the essential and the critical business processes, and we can deploy, and we can, for example, deploy more security controls from cybersecurity perspective, and from business continuity perspective. We can focus more on these business processes in order to ensure that they are can recover quickly or can restored very quickly. Fine. So the BI also is one of the exercises that's required for the information security and business continuity. So as there are mixed similarities between the two disciplines, objectives and policy. We develop policies based on the initial component that we have discussed, okay? And we need to have a policy that set the direction, that have the objectives, okay? And to make it very like a clear statement for the organization and for also the different stakeholders. First of all, to define clear objectives. So, for example, based on the PIA, we usually define the RTO and the RPO. And based on this exercise, we can define exactly what is acceptable RTO and acceptable RPO for the organization based on many things, based on the MAU value, based on the risk appetite, based on many things. Fine. So we have many things that we need to align in order to say that this value is acceptable for us. Also, we need to consider the regulatory requirements, because sometimes it could be mentioned clearly that the recovery, the RTO, for example, for certain business processes should be specific number or specific, let's say, amount of time. Align with the strategic direction. In order to ensure, as I mentioned before, the alignment between the strategy, whether it's cybersecurity or business continuity, with the business strategy, we need to have this policy to do and to show, to state this alignment. Fine. And to ensure that the executive sponsorship and endorsement, in addition to their support, it must be written. And we must get the blessing and the endorsement from the board and the top management on the policy. And also, we need to ensure that the compliance requirements are already part of the policy. So the policy, the development of the policy must be state the objectives and the directions, the strategic directions, and also it must consider, and it has all the regulatory requirements from compliance perspective, whether for ISO, for the business continuity standard, or the information security controls. In addition to that, if there is any, for example, industry-specific requirements or regulations like GDPR, it could be PCI or HIPAA, or any, for example, industry requirements should be also mentioned in the policy, in addition to contractual obligation to customers and partners. So the policy, developing the policy must have all what we have mentioned here. Treatment planning. Okay. Before we discussed how we can do the risk assessment. Now we need to discuss how we do the integrated risk treatment planning. After doing the risk assessment and identifying the risks, we usually have multiple kinds of risk treatment. It could be mitigates. It could be we can mitigate the risk by applying additional control. We can transfer the risk by doing some kind of insurance or outsourcing, or we can accept the risk itself, or we can eliminate by stopping the business process that could be the root cause of certain type of risks. So the holistic control design, okay, and the cross-functional control linkage and the risk-based prioritization, all of these things are mandatory and important in order to ensure that we are doing the risk treatment plan in a correctly, and in order to ensure that we have some kind of acceptable level of risk. Fine. As you know, in the first phase, when we are doing the risk assessment, we will have the risks, which is usually mentioned that it's inherent risk. So basically, as we have said, after deploying the multiple risk treatment options or plans, then we will have something called residual risk, and the amount or the value of the residual risk must be aligned with the risk appetite and must be aligned with the risk tolerance. Okay. Initial component that we have discussed, the 3 components, we must have some kind of documentation that is required by the standard, the ISO standard, the business continuity management system, like the continuity and security policies, the risk assessment methodology, and the business impact analysis, the incident response procedure, recovery strategies, and the plans, and exercise records. One of these documents has its own structure, it has its own objective and goal, And without these documents, you cannot get the certification for the ISO, whether the ISO business continuity management system. And if we are talking about the crisis management team in general, the crisis management team usually, or let's talk first about the crisis management roles. In general, the team can be very small team, the crisis management, or it can be very big. Fine. So in a very large institution, the crisis management team is usually a huge team, and it has multiple components or multiple teams. Essentially, it has the core crisis management team that consists of the crisis manager, the technical lead, operational lead, communication lead, legal, and compliance. And sometimes it has some kind of extended teams. It's like supporting teams that might be required during the crisis. Like for example, we might need someone from for the communication, and we might need someone from the compliance or legal team. Sometimes we might need people from externally from if we are if the regulatory body, for example, a central bank, from the central bank, or if it's, for example, from the data protection office. So the team itself could be small, it could be large, based on the size of the organization and the teams, the roles that could be available, or part of the team. It could be very limited to just 3 or 4 people, or it could be very extended, especially if we are talking about international organization. And this international organization usually exist and available in multiple different geolocation. And in this case, we need to have, it could be one crisis management team, and we might have multiple crisis management team. So basically, the structure of the organization itself, and the location, the complexity, the culture, all of these things are very important factors that that could impact the development or the forming of the crisis management team itself. But essential, the crisis manager is the one who's responsible on the incident itself and has good understanding of the incident. Fine. For example, if the incident is relevant to, for example, the transfers, so the crisis manager is the head of the transfer department. The technical lead, it could be the head of IT. The operational lead could be someone from the team, a different team. So the crisis manager, it could be fixed each time, but I have seen some organization, the crisis manager, it could be different based on the nature and the type of the incident itself, and the type of the crisis. Okay, or the component number 6, the cyber incident response integration. We have explained the incident timeline, and we have mentioned that it has multiple phases, starting from the anticipate, starting from monitoring, respond, recover, and many other phases. Now we will talk about these phases in detail. It's the detection and the classification of the incident. So we need to have some monitoring systems to identify potential incidents, okay? And we need to do some kind of a classification, because an incident with very low classification or impact um, um, has different, for example, a playbook or different plan than a huge incident with a very significant, for example, impact. So the classification is important, and based on the classification, we can develop a plan for the incident. And the second thing is the contact and triage. So basically, For talking about a cybersecurity incident, and we have some devices which is affected, or for example, with a virus or a ransomware, as for example, attack, then the technical team, they usually triage and they try to isolate these computers or these desktops in order to ensure that the incident cannot spread more to the rest of computers. So the isolation of the affected or the impacted, let's say, systems is very important. The continuity teams activate alternative processes, and that's why we usually do some kind of tabletop exercise, and we usually do some, for example, cyber drill, just to see what we need to do in case, for example, X type of incident happen, in case of DDoS attack, what activities should be done, in case of data breach, what we need to do. Fine. And joint assessment of business impact. We need to understand the impact on the business, okay? If it's still internal and we can manage it, or there is an impact on our clients, or maybe it could, for example, huge incident, and there is some bad news in the media. So we need to understand the impact, okay, of this incident. The third, coordinated response. The team must work to eradicate the threat. They must understand the root cause. What is the root cause of the incident? And they are trying to eliminate the root cause. Fine, by it could be doing some system recovery. It could be doing some, for example, they might, if this certain server could impacted by a virus, they might also develop or establish another server, and they must also ensure that there is a proper communication during the incident, because this is very, very important. Sometimes the incident, it could be small, but due to rumors during the incident, the impact become very, very huge. So well prepared communications, fine, is important. And the communication matrix, by the way, must be ready, fine, and we must understand our internal and external stakeholder, what type of communication they would prefer. For example, certain stakeholder, they might prefer email. Another, let's say, stakeholder, they, for example, wanted to be informed by phone. So multiple stakeholder with multiple communication methods, but the message, okay, must be well written, fine, because if the message is sent incorrectly to the stakeholder, the reputation will be very huge, and we might lose our trust with our clients. So we must be very careful during developing the communication messages, especially for the external stakeholders. Recovery and restoration, then we need to do system restored in a priority order, and we do some kind of business process brought back online, back to normal. The the seventh step, or the seven component, is the disaster recovery and data protection strategies. Based on the RTO and the RPO, we have multiple recovery strategies, fine. And the best practices for the recovery strategy is to have the plan 3-2-1 backup strategy, 3 copies, 2 different media, and 1 offsite. We also have different technical resilience measures and different disaster recovery strategies. Now we have also cloud, so we can also consider cloud and doing the backup in multiple locations. Then the phase number 8 is the testing, drill, and training. So we have multiple approaches for testing, whether it's tabletop exercise, the functional drill, and the full-scale simulation. Having multiple testing and engage as much as we can from different departments is very important, in order to increase the awareness and in order to train them, because if they are ready and they can do it during the test, so we can ensure that their skills will be much better, and their behavior and response during the incident will be mature comparing to doing that without testing. Step number 9, or phase number 9, is monitoring and performance evaluation. So we need to ensure having some kind of indicators, whether it's lag indicator or leading indicator. When we say leading indicators, like the control effectiveness, the training completion, and the lagging indicator like incident rates, recovery times. Why we need to have these indicators? In order to ensure that we have very effective monitoring. So to measure the effectiveness, you need to have the indicators. It could be the system availability, the mean time to detect, mean time to respond, and the recovery time. The continuous improvement is essential not only for the ISO business continuity management system, but for all ISOs in general, due to plan, do, check, act cycle that we have. So we need also to revise our activities. We need to ensure that we have a very efficient and effective process. So we need to, for example, analyze some root causes and have the lessons learned, update the documentation, and redo the cycle again. Aligning the business continuity with the cybersecurity standard is, as you see, is important, and they complement each other. So both of them, they are follow the plan, do, check, act methodology. Both of them has some requirements like the risk assessment, BIA, the control framework. All of these things are common in the two standards. Okay. Let me talk more about the third party and the supply chain risks. So, as you see, no organization can work alone. So we usually rely on multiple vendors and multiple third parties. So also understanding the risks that could be initiated by the third party is important. After the recent incident that happened, we believe that the cybersecurity incident could be not targeting the organization itself, but it could be targeting the third party, because they might implement less controls. The environment in the third party could be less mature than our organization. Similar to what happened to CrowdStrike and many other third parties incidents. Two cases, the case study, the first case study is the ransomware and a manufacturing outage. So basically, one of the global manufacturers experienced a ransomware attack in 2023. Based on the analysis of the incident and the attack, they require 5 days of production downtime, or they experience, 5 days of production downtime, with 8 million in direct financial losses, with a delayed shipment to key customers. However, having the integrated response success factor, for example, they can, because they have this practice, they could identify the critical systems and processes, and they isolated the OT network with manual overrides. Fine. And so as you see, 5 days with 8 million with delays, there are huge losses. The financial institution, for example, if we have a DDoS attack on a bank or any financial institution, so one of the banks, major banks, it has a massive DDoS attack, and based on that, on the attacks, and usually attackers, they trying to target banks, because in order to get more money, in order to cause a financial losses, because they are offering many digital services, whether it's digital bank or a mobile app, or they are trying to reach to clients in multiple ways, and usually digital ways. Fine. So based on this DDoS attack, the attack mitigated within 30 minutes, and the normal operation restored. Post-incident analysis conducted to strengthen the defense against future attacks. So as you see, if you have a resilient operational resiliency in your organization, then you will have a resilient organization. And the attacks, they usually happen, and it happens to any organization. But how fast you can respond and you can recover from this incident, which is really important, and which is the most important factor. But the cyber attacks in general, it's not about if happen or not. It's about when it will happen or it might happen. Do the the integrated approaches that we have explained during the session. What could be the pitfalls? It could be extended recovery times. So instead of doing the recovery in, for example, in hours, we might need days. The response confusion, because usually the organization has multiple plans. It could be has a business continuity plan, a crisis management plan, and incident response plan. If there is no alignment or integration between these plans, this will cause response confusion. Regulatory consequences, and this will cause some kind of regulatory, could be fines, it could be some kind of potential fines on the organization that couldn't recover or that they can't respond quickly. Crisis, we have explained this. Having a metric, communication metrics is essential, and for our internal and external stakeholder with multiple communication channels. It could be email, it could be SMS, and it could be intranet. So the communication strategy must be developed, agreed, and must be updated frequently. Key metrics and indicators. How we can measure that we have really a good operational resilience, or we have a solid business continuity management framework. It's through the control effectiveness, as we ensure that the controls are implemented in a very effective way. Then this could be a good indicator for a speed recovery. And recovery testing success, as we do multiple testing, and we also check if there is something wrong and update our business continuity plan and update our systems also. That could be one of the key matrices and indicators. System availability and the training completion. All of these things are key matrices and indicators. And automation enabler, as I have mentioned, we have emerging technologies and they are evolving rapidly, and we need to use these solutions and these technologies in a very effective way to help us to respond and to recover quickly from any incident. For example, when we're talking about the monitoring, we can use SOAR solution or the SIM solution, in addition to a threat intelligence platform. The resilience in infrastructure, for example, we can rely on cloud now because the availability is very high. Also using the AI, it could allow us to have anomaly detection systems and automated incident triage. All of these technologies, they are emerging technologies, but using them will really add huge value and will minimize the disruption time. And the human factors, when having a resilience culture from whether it's top down or bottom up, all people are involved, all levels, all employees are part of the of resilience culture, then this will help the organization to become more resilient. And we can do this through many things, by having a wide risk awareness, by having a personal accountability for security, and proactive reporting for incident and near misses. We need also to reward people or employees who, for example, who highlight or who communicate certain incidents, okay, instead of punish them. Roadmap for implementing what we have mentioned so far. So we can use this slide, and we can use the integration, as you have seen, the integration between the information security management system and the business continuity management system. For example, we can do first phase is the assessment. We do gap analysis for the two standards, and we conduct business impact analysis in addition to risk assessment, and do stakeholder mapping, whether they are internal or external. The second phase, the foundation, develop the policy. and ensure the objective are setting, and also do some risk mapping and treatment plans. Ensure that the governance structure or the governance body they are involved. In addition to that, the governance structure are established through having multiple committees, reporting committees to monitor and to support the implementation of the cybersecurity standard or the the business continuity standard. The implementation process design and documentation, tabletop exercise and also drill, and functional drill. Control development with integration testing, and the last thing is optimization. Optimization is through testing, frequent testing, management review, continual improvement, and full scale exercise through let all people engaged in one test just to ensure that we can recover and our what we have written in our policy can implemented in real life, and we need to revise all our documentation as well. So basically, in order to have resilient, secure, and very compliant organization, the integration, the unified risk review, the comprehensive defensive, the cultural transformation, and the continuous evaluation are very important things, because we are living in a digital first era, and the cybersecurity and the business continuity have become very essential disciplines, and they complement each other. So as you see, the integration between the two disciplines will allow you to have a resilient, secure, and compliant organization. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any question, I'm very happy to answer your questions.
Unfortunately, we do not have time for any questions. We will try to answer them afterwards, but I wanted to thank you for your presentation and everyone else for attending this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for each one of you. And if you need anything or any question, of if you wanted to help you to establishing the business continuity management discipline or the information security management discipline, you can reach out to the CISO consultancy, because I'm providing my consultation and training services through this company exclusively. Thank you so much for your time.